guys, and welcome back to our bag making class. um, Thank you for those that have subscribed. I'm really highly grateful, and for those that haven't, please do subscribe, right? And also set on your notification so that whenever I upload these videos, especially if you love bag making, you'd be able to see it. So as normal, this is a Macadel online training, and my name is Nita, your physical and online instructor. Remember the last time we did a pattern drafting for this bag that we're doing. It's a tote bag with a base. We're going to be attaching the base to it. You know, we had cut the main lining, the facing. Remember, I explained all that. So now for today's class, the items I will be using for this class, I'm mixing it. You know, I had said that I'm going to be having leather at this point and Ankara at this point. Okay, so this is the leather, the Ankara I'll be using, which is going to be at the top part, and this is the leather I'll be using, which is going to be at the lower part. So we have the leather, and you can work, this is my lining, right? So you can use taffeta for your lining. Times I use bridal satin when I can't find taffeta, you know, or I didn't buy, not that I can't find, or like I don't find it around me, because really I just have my things always available. Okay, so we have that. For the lining, for the Ankara rather, I have my my stay interfacing, you know, that I'm going to use. So you can get your interfacing not soft, not hard. It's just in between, it's a medium interfacing. That's what I'll be using. And then I have my zip. I may use this, I'm not sure. This is a normal already made zip, so I may be using that, or I am going to use the cut out ones, the one I will install by myself. You can see that, right? So you install it. I've already installed this. I'll also show you how to. So when you're using this kind of zip, you can use any kind of zip head that you want. So you buy your zip heads. You know, all these things are being sold in Lagos, Nigeria. You can get them in Motion, right? And I sell as well. So if you need, I send them to you. But if you are available in Lagos, please find your way to Motion and you find them, you know, different lovely ones. So you can buy the gold, you can buy silver, different types, sizes as well, because you have the size 3 for the size 3 zip, the size 6 zips. There are different sizes for these zips as well, so you need to decide what size that you intend to work with. And most times, if you find it difficult to do this, and please, whenever you're buying your zip head, make sure that it goes with the zip. Let them test it. It should be the same size. Like I said, you have the size, different sizes, so you could have the 3, you could have the 6, and stuff like that. So make sure that the zip head goes with the zip before you leave that piece. All right, so that's for the zip. And then for the handle that we are going to be creating, I have my belt. So you can, this you can find, they have it in 1 inch, they have it in 2 inches. This is 2 inches. You know, I just prefer this kind of, you know, you can use anyone. I have the 1 inch as well. So it depends on what you want to, what you desire. Do you want a big handle? Do you want a small handle? Do you want to create an effect with it? Because I can actually create something with it. So I use my belt, and I'll cover it, you know, with maybe the Ankara I'm using, or leather, I'll decide. So I have my rings as well. So these are the rings. You can ask for rings. All these things, like I said, they are being sold at the Motion market. I don't know any other market in Lagos. Outside Lagos, I wouldn't really know, but I buy in Lagos. So these are your rings. Now my belt, you have to, whenever you want to use rings with your belts for the bag, you need to be sure that your belt fits into the ring. So now I'm using this because, I mean, it works well for me. I can as well use the 1 inch, it will still work, but at least this one passes, because this is exactly what I'm going to be having. So I'm going to attach another thing here that will go to the bag, and then this is going to be the handle. Okay, so we have that, and then we have our cups. I have the cup for the base. So these are cups. You have them also in gold, you have them in silver, you have the original, you have the, it's not fake, but there are some you buy and it won't last. Especially like where me I stay, or you know, the air here or something, I don't know what happens. So if you buy this and you're not buying the original, it will start the corrosion, you know, just like that. I don't know why it happens that way. So for me, there's a particular lady I buy from in Mushin. She sells original. So if you want her contact, you get in touch with me and I'll give it to you if you want to buy these things. So when you go to her directly, you know what she's selling, you know, would actually last for a long time. So like I said, the zip heads also come in this bag. So any other thing I haven't mentioned in this class, please, our carry board. So you have, there are different types. So it's not that you really need to ask for carry board, because you may go there, you find high text. You have high text, you have carry board. You have all sorts of names on this board, but what I'm using right now is a carry board. Okay, so you have them also in different thickness. So when you, whatever you want to do depends on the kind of thickness you want to work with. Like when I'm making shoes, I use a different thickness from this. So for this, I use for bag. At times too, if I don't have this one and I have the heavy one, I mean, I'm just trying to create a base with it so I can work with it. But if I'm using it to make a box bag, I may likely not use this thickness, you know, depending on what I want to achieve in the box bag as well. So that's another thing that we're going to work with, okay? And then our almighty gum. At times I tend to use it, at times I don't use it. It all depends on, but most times for this leather, at times I put in taffeta. We call it taffeta. It's not the taffeta you use to make clothes. It's a taffeta for bag, because if you're asking for it in the market, you ask for taffeta. Okay, so at times I put my taffeta in here, maybe if I just want to give it that strength, right? So it all depends on what you desire. And also all these things you're doing, take into consideration the kind of sewing machine you're using. I'm just using a straight sewing machine anyway, but I'm changing my needle. Okay, so having said all this, let's move into cutting. It's a long video though, but try not to miss any part of it. Like I could have skipped and just keep fast forwarding and all stuff like that, but it doesn't really work for me. I just like doing everything, following it the way it's meant to be. And please note, whatever scissors you use for your fabric, don't use the same scissors for your leather. It will spoil it. Leather scissors is meant to be different from fabric scissors. So as you're seeing here now, I have my fabric scissors and I have my leather scissors. So just buy your scissors, and then you need your biro. I can't find all my biros anyway, so I'm using my pencil, but you need your biro, you know, to mark on your leather or on your board. All right, so we're going to start. Okay, so I've gotten a piece of fabric, because you don't really need much for this. Okay, so this is just a piece, like, you need a measurement. Just take your piece of fabric. It's about 12 inches. It's not even up to half a yard actually. So that's my piece, and this is what, remember I said main, and I'm having a leather here. Okay, I'm having a leather there, so I'm going to fold the leather part. You know, when you work with boards like this is off cut, like I said, it's flexible, so you can fold it anyhow you want it, right? So for the top part, I already added an allowance, but for this part, we don't have any allowance to it. So we need to add an allowance to that as well. Okay, so here I can move it totally to the top. Normally what we do here is that you're going to use your let me bring it so you see it. Okay, so you have your silver pen. All these things you can find them in Mushin as well. So your silver pen, why it's very okay is that it doesn't stain anything, you know, it stays there. So once I place this here. Okay, I'll use my silver pen and draw around it. It's just to help you see. It works more with leather though, so for this one I'll use my pencil because that works more with leather. When we're working with leather, you see that. So here you can use your pencil, you can use your tailor's chalk as well, but you must mark that out. So now I've marked. You can decide to maybe make it, what I normally do a notch mark to know which is the up part. If you decide, it doesn't really matter. So after doing this, right, like I said, because we are having a cut there, I'm going to add my 1/2 inch allowance, okay, for joining the leather to the main, the Ankara. They are both main anyway. So I'm just joining that up. So once I'm done with that, because it's Ankara, and I don't know, for me, and I'm sitting down to teach, I'm not standing. It's easier when I'm standing. So me, I like to pin. And this Ankara I'm using, whenever you're working with original Ankaras, you find out that there's a tendency that the front and the back will look the same. So please try to mark it, all right? So after doing that, I'm going to cut. So whatever you're cutting here now, you're going to cut the lining the same way. So now I'm marking on the lining piece. So like I said, most times if you have your biro, you can use it. It works very well. I prefer the pencil. So here I had cut open. This is where I am putting my one side of the zip. Okay. So I'm going to do it only on one side. The other side is going to have just a normal pocket. So it's only this part I'm drawing on that is going to have the zip, not the two sides. Except you want it on both sides. It's still fine. Okay. So the other part of it, sorry, I'll just pin that. Like I said, I pin because I don't want it to move. Just need to join this up. So the other side of this, I'm going to be using my taffeta. Remember I talked about taffeta. So this is, for the bag, this is what we call taffeta. It comes in, you can buy them 1 yard, 2 yards, however yards you want. This taffeta. We use it also to give base to our leather. You can even, at times I use it for Ankara, it's just that you have to work with gum. So these days, I prefer to use the interfacing. You know, so it acts like an interfacing tool, but it doesn't have a gum. So I'll be using this. I'll cut this for you to see. This is going to be for the other pocket, but I'm actually still going to cover it. So it's not that because I'm cutting it, it's going to be like this. I'm still going to use the lining to cover it. Okay. So for this now, cutting it out. Don't forget that we already added all our allowances for the lining already. No, we have cut out a part of this lining that we are going to be using Ankara to cut. That's the part that we called facing. that's it. So like I said, this inner part, I'm going to be using it just for the zip part of it, but this other side I'm going to put this on it. So I'm going to show you how to create all that now and then finish up all the cutting. Okay, so this is where we drew the zip, the part we're using for the zip. Okay, so when you do that, I've done the box. That is this, here to here. So that's the opening I have there now. But you have to come in. So from the edge here, measure in half an inch. Okay? And just mark. From this edge as well, come in half of an inch and just mark. Okay? So now, this is half inch of remember what we're doing here is half of an inch. I think I like to draw it out with biro so that you guys can see it. So we have, so I'm using the zip is going to be half of an inch. Okay, so I'm trying to get my half. So I just needed to really draw that out so you can see. And please, this is the wrong side. Don't draw this on the right side. Okay. So from here, I'm now marking this. So when you mark your half, try to get the middle point of your half, which is a quarter, on this point that I did this little mark. Okay? So mark the quarter point there. Do the same thing here on this side. Mark the quarter points. Have you seen that? Those are the points. Now, you're going to draw a line from here, like a slant, from this angle to that point. Okay? Just follow what I'm doing. It's that easy, to that point. From the other angle as well to that point. Have you seen that? So same thing here. To that point, from that angle, and from this angle to that point. Okay, so when we are cutting, we are going to cut. And please, yes, also don't forget to make your straight line. I can just cut, but let me do this so you guys will understand it. So you now create this straight line is like dividing your box into two. Okay, so you just create that line. So when we are cutting, we are going to be cutting on this V line, then through this straight line into this V line. Then we'll use our gum to push it to the back. So that's bring it to the back anyway, because it's going to come to this part. So you can do this at the right side if you know how to fold your thing properly, and there won't be issues. I'll be using iron to fold mine. Okay, so that is for this part. And then when we are done, we're going to cut the lining piece that we are using to create this. So that will be 7. You can do 7 by 7, 8 by 8, and whatever you're doing, let it be longer than this for this part. This was 7. So when we are cutting the fabric, we're going to be cutting 9 inches, so that we have extra here that we can trim off at the end of the day. So we'll be cutting 9 by whatever you want your back piece to be. 5 is always perfectly fine, between 4 to 5. So we'll be cutting 9 inches of lining by 5. 9 inches by 5. Okay? So, on this other part, I need to mark it. So I've kept that part aside. On this part, you fold it into 2. Okay? Find your middle. Please, you can go iron it. and just find what I'm doing here is just try to find my middle points. Okay, so once I'm able to find my middle point, which is here, I will mark down. Here I'm going to be using my pencil, so just watch it properly. So from the top, take into consideration your 1/2 inch that is going off, you know, so you can mark down like 4.5 inches. All right, so I'll just make a mark there at 4.5 inches. This way 4.5, and this way 4.5. all right, so from here I'm going to mark how wide I want that my pocket piece to be. My pocket piece is going to be just about, you can make yours up to 7. It's a choice, you can choose whatever you want, but I'll be using 6. I'm not putting anything much inside it, so 6 is fine. Like I said, you can do 7. So if I'm doing 6, I'm going to place my middle point at 3, right? So this is where I can now use pen down here, since it won't show, just for you to see. So this is like my middle point. Okay, then I will now mark where I'm placing the pocket. That's 6. Okay, so this is how wide my pocket is going to be. You can make it wider. Then from here, of course, you know that your pocket is about between 4 to 5. That's what I kept saying. Whatever you want, I'll be doing 4 inches. So my pocket will stop somewhere here. When you're placing the pocket, you will know, but I just like making marks so that I'm not going beyond or above. So that's just it. So just create a mark for your pocket on this side. I did it on the right side because that's where I'm placing the pocket. Okay, so after doing that, since I've now determined that my pocket is 6x4, I'm going to create the 6x4 here. Okay, so first of all, I'm just trying to fold this taffeta so that I can just use a midpoint to work. So I have a midpoint. So since I'm doing 6, right, from that my midpoint, I'm going to mark my 3 and 3. This is my midpoint here. Anyway, I'm covering this, so it doesn't really matter. That's my midpoint there. Okay, so I'm going to have my 6. All right, so I'll turn that into a straight line from wherever I'm going to be starting from. So I'm just trying to look for the mark I made. Okay, so that is my straight line. So I'm going to be working with this line. So from this line, I'm going to measure down 4 inches, which is what I want to use. Okay. 4 inches, all right, and I'll turn it into another line. So from the middle, just like I did, I can still see my middle. I'm sure you will see yours. You can't see mine. And I'll mark my 6 again. Okay, just follow what I'm doing, even if you're not seeing properly. So I'll draw a line, and I'll draw a line. So this box is a box of 6x4. So just create a box of 6x4. You can create it with any other thing. It doesn't, if you don't have a taffeta. Okay. So having done that, you can now cut it out. So this is going to be a base for us to, we're going to be covering this, because that's what we're going to fix there for our bag. Like I said, please, you can make yours wider, longer. If you're the designer, so anything you want to do is okay. That's what everybody will buy, because that's your creativity. So like I said, I didn't really want something big. I would have made it wider, but I'm just okay with, I just wanted a small pocket at that point. There's nothing I'm really putting inside. Okay. So having done this, we're now going to cut a lining for this. So let me get my lining and show you how to cut. Okay, so I've cut a piece of fabric that is slightly, here is on fold, so you're cutting a long piece, a very long piece, like twice the length of this, because you're going to be folding this over. Okay, so cut a piece twice as long as this. Okay, so at the back of it, I'm going to apply a bit of my gum. I haven't used this for a while. I'm going to open it up. So not too much, because it always has this tendency to stain the so you get something and spread like a spreader just to spread the gum out. So I'm just using my board as my spreader. So what I've done is just like to spread the gum out. So after doing that, please, this is the wrong side, this is the right side. So I'm going to place it on the wrong side. So you can now try to find, so when you place it like that, I always try to find where the fold is going to be. Right? So that's where the fold is going to be. So having done this, you can just trim, just make it the same. Just making the mouth equal. All right, so now on this part that you have now, if you notice, because I folded it, I know where my folded edge, that's why I'm doing that mark for you to see. So that's where my folded edge is going to be and all this. All right, so I'm going to have to cut it at this point. So you can also decide to fold it in, not necessarily if you don't want to cut it, you can decide to just fold it in. But because I'm going to fold one side, so I don't need to do that on this side. So on this side, I'm just cutting it to be the same, just on one side, please note. Then on this side, I'm cutting it, but when I get here, like, I'm going to slant it. Kind of, you know, I'm not cutting everything out. You can actually even cut it and just leave your half of an inch, you know, like somewhere there. It's still fine. Now, why we're doing that is that we are going to fold this over, and then we're going to now cover this part. This is the part we're going to cover. So I left that, and I'll check. I want to make sure that I really have my line before I cut that out. Okay, so that I'm not cutting it at a wrong place. So once I'm sure of my line, I can now come in this way, right, and just trim it out. So have you seen how it looks now? Okay. That's it. So we have this part. So now you will now cover it this way. Alright. So when you cover it this way, we are now going to spread your gum. You can use your glue, so you don't have to use this cement gum, elbow stick. Okay. So I'm just going to line my, just a little, not too much, just at this edge. You can see what I'm doing. So you see, I'm lining it at the edge, same thing here. Alright, so after doing that, just, you can let it be a bit sticky. Just spread it a bit. So you're folding, you're going to fold this over. Like now, please, this is too big. You can make it half or quarter of an inch. It doesn't have to be too, mine is just too wide because you don't need all that anyway. So I've trimmed it out. So make yours, you can make it half an inch, you can make it a quarter, whichever one you can work with. All right, so see what I'm doing. I'm folding it on it. Okay, so when I get to this point, the angle point, I didn't really get there. I folded and stopped here, and I'm folding this over first as well. Okay, so here also I'll take out a bit. So see what I'm doing here. I'm doing this. Same thing here. I'll lift this up, move it. I'm folding. When I get here, I fold it like an angle. See. Okay. So all those parts, try and lay it down. So see what it looks. The front is very neat. Okay, so all these parts that we kept, you just use your scissors and do that. Okay, see. Okay. And just take it off. All right, so now that part is ready. This part is going to be on the inside, so it won't show. Also, you can stitch down. I didn't really want to go to the machine, but before you do this, you can as well give it a stitch. It just gives it that beautiful finishing. Okay, so just stitch down at this point. You can just do it at this point. You can also do it round, anyone you want, but I'm going to just do one here. Like I said, it is a choice. So most times you don't have a machine with you, you can still get it done this way. Okay, so having done that, I'm going to just give it a stitch at that point, and then I'll come back and show you. Okay, so I have sewn on it. Okay, so now I'm going to pick the parts I marked for it. Although we're not yet done cutting, but we are going to keep cutting in the process, you know. So this is where I'm going to be placing it. Okay, so now that is done, let's finish our cutting. So I've cut the zip part, right? This you can cut ×4 if you're using like that lining part that we're using to put the zip. But for me, I'm using fabric on top and lining under. So I've cut the lining too, and I'm going to cut the fabric out too. So the next thing we're also going to cut, we're going to cut a lining piece on fabric. Okay, and then we're going to be cutting out our leather. All right, so I'm just checking if this is enough for this. So we keep using all what we utilize, what we have. It is enough. Just partially enough. So I think I can work with this. So I'm going to use this to cut for the one side of the zip. So all what we're doing is just this. You know, you're going to just keep. Sorry, I need to move that so I get what I need. So all we're doing here is just taking our pattern. This is the essence of already having your pattern ready. Okay, and then we'll just keep cutting. So I have marked that. Like I said, when you do, you can pin. I have clips as well, so maybe when I'm sewing, I'll show you the clips. You can buy your clips, it really helps also. So now I'm trimming out the part for the zip. I said, it's safer to mark these fabrics. Like now I'm trying to check front and back. Okay, so now that I know that, I'll quickly mark it. All right, so I'll place it with this. So that's how we're going to use it, and that forms the zip part. All these ones you can also add. We'll also cut our interfacing for it. Okay, so now let's cut our facing, and then finally we're going to cut for the leather. So I've been able to get another piece. So I have said this facing, we are going to be cutting it times 2. Okay. So we're cutting it in 2. So like I said, you can always get something. You can get something to hold this down, to place on it, but I can hold and keep shifting my hand. Just make sure that it doesn't shift, please. So once I'm done, I always pin down. Okay. So I've marked and I'm going to cut. So that's the facing we are going to be attaching to the lining. So this is our facing piece. So I said times 2 because we are joining it back to complete the lining. So the final one we are cutting is the leather part, this down part. Okay, so I think we're having the leather as a down part and probably as the handle. I'm not sure, but I know that so far I want my leather to be, it may not be enough, I don't know. So we'll see. I think I've used this before to make a purse, so I don't think I have enough left. So now, so you can place it this way. Since I had used this part, I'll just use it. Leather is expensive, so you really need to minimize your leather. That's why I always try to look at it very well, so I'm not keeping too much space. I need to use everything available to me. All right, so use your biro. That's what I'm doing, and just mark. You have your pattern already, so there's nothing. So when I'm done marking, I'll show you. So when you get here, remember you're just using to this point, so just do a line. See what I'm doing at that point, and I'll come here as well, and I'll create a line as well. Okay, then I can now take this off. Use my ruler and join up that line. Don't forget we haven't added any allowance, so I'm going to add. That's going to be the allowance we are going to use to join it to the anchor. Alright. So I've done that. Okay. So once you do this, you take your scissors for leather. So that's it. That's it. So take your scissors for leather and we're going to cut it. So I'm just cutting it out. Alright, so at least I still have that left. So I'll decide, like I said, I'll decide. Now we're going to cut this in two. So that's not even like totally left. So I'll place this again on another part of it, and then I'll cut out the second piece. So I wanted to cut this for you to see, and then I'm going to cut that piece off the camera. So I'll cut it now and show you. Okay, so we have our leather ready. So like I said, for this leather, most times if you want it to be more weighty, like to stand, that is where you use your taffeta, right? So you can put your taffeta on it. So taffeta is just like an interfacing to give it that stay. So you can actually place your taffeta over on it. So it all depends on, because the one I'm using is actually soft. So I may likely put my taffeta over it just to give it that stability, because I want the bag to have strength. So that's what I will do now. I'll be cutting the taffeta. When you're cutting the taffeta, it doesn't necessarily have to be the same, you know, because you're sewing, so that your machine can actually pass through it, so it doesn't become too bulky. You can as well decide not to use it. So I will decide. The fabric is softer than this. This still has weight, so I may use it like that as well. Okay, so the only thing remaining for us to cut out are the bag, the handle of the bag. So first of all, I want to cut out the interfacing and show you before we get to the cut. So I have cut out my interfacing, and I'm going to iron it on this Ankara fabric before we start anything. So I'll do that now, and I'll come back and show you. Okay, so I've ironed on my interfacing. Okay, so now we'll just cut what is left, the piece I said we have to cut for the to create the zip pocket. Okay, so the first piece we are going to be cutting is 9 inches by 5 is fine, but at times I also cut a very long piece. So let me just cut it like double that size, so at the end of the day I can just fold it up and create my pocket. Okay, so let me just cut a piece and show you. Okay, so I've cut a long piece. I made it very long. Okay, so let's get back there. Now, before I start, I'm going to go back and cut out this, but you can actually use your scissors as well. So I can do this. Okay, I just folded that part. I just want to, so I just cut it a bit open. Okay, so I just cut it a bit open. So now that I've done that, I'm going to walk on that line. Okay. So I'm cutting open. So when I get to this V part, like I said, I just got to this point. Okay, so I'm just slanting it to that V. Okay, that's all. And this side also to that corner. That's all. So I'll turn this as well, and I'll do the same thing. Get to this point, slant it, stop, slant it again, and stop. Okay, so that's basically what I have done there. So now I'm going to fold all this over. Like I'm going to fold it this way, use gum, and fold it at those marks that I have made. Okay, so just apply the gum lightly. I'm just going to apply the gum all over that part that I want to fold over. Even here as well. So I'm doing a bit on the outside, on the inside. So just generally apply gum, that's all, because we want to fold that part over. Not too much, like I said, because this gum has a tendency to make your fabric look funny. Alright? So I've done that. So I'll just fold it on the line. Just follow that line. Alright? And fold over. I'm just folding over. Okay? Turn it this way, fold over also at that point. Please make it as neat as you can. So I'm just using the line we have, that's a pencil mark line, okay? And just keep folding it over. Just make sure it's neat anyway. Okay, so have you seen what I've done? So I've folded everything over. If we turn it, this is the side we're working on. See how it is looking. It's looking very neat. That's why I said take your time, because people will be seeing this side of the bag and it has to look this neat. Okay, so having done that, let me explain why I got this piece. Okay, so this piece is what is going to stay under it. I chose to use Ankara. You can still use your lining. All right, so when we are putting the zip, we need to come down. You don't start at the very top part there. So you can just come down and start at about 2 inches. All right, so I can say 2 inches. All right, that's where I'm going to be placing this. So that's it. So my zip is going to be staying, you know, at that point. So this pocket is meant to aid that. All right, so we can start putting together everything. Okay, so before we do that, we'll keep this aside. Let's start with the pocket part. Okay, so pick up your line. There are a lot of things we do here before we go to the machine. Remember, we did some markings on this, so you trace your marking point. We had sewn on this, fold this into to find a center point on the right side, on that side that you don't have any. So that center point is what I'm going to place on this center point where I'm going to be starting my pocket from. This is where my pocket is going to start. So that's what I'm placing there. And then we're going to place this to this side. How do we do this? Me, I use gum. Just to hold it a bit, like I said, because if it's too much, your machine will have issues going through it. So it's just to stick it down. So see, I'm not putting too much, just at some point, that's all. Okay, so now note that you're going to be putting something inside this bag. So because I'm going to be putting something, I'll just put something in, just like as if I'm having something inside the bag. Okay, then find your midpoint again. You can as well find your midpoint and place it, but it's always good to place something because you're not going to put it exactly at that too. So if you're going to be having something inside the bag, I'm pushing this. So it's not staying flat. If you place it the way you want to, it's going to stay flat and things may not be able to go inside. So see, I've pushed it to give it that space for things to stay inside it. So I try to place it down, but this part is not straight. So have you seen that? So I've been able to put that down. So when I get to the machine, I'm going to be stitching here, round, back to this point. That's what I'll be doing. So please make sure that everything you're doing is folded in properly. So that's what I'm going to do. So I've been able to stick that down. So have you seen? It's already looking very nice. So we're going to be stitching here and round. So we'll keep this aside. So the gum has helped me to put it down. And when we are working with a normal sewing machine like I'm going to use, you need to have your oil around you, because most times when it doesn't want to, you need to keep putting oil, you know, or oiling your machine anyway for it to work. But I think mine works perfectly fine. So number one, we put it aside. Then we now come to this part. So this part, it depends on what kind of zip you intend to use. I'll be using this. If you're using this, just cut your zip the way you want it. You can fix your zip head. You can actually fix it already. I'm trying to look for the other one. So you can pick up your zip head, all right? Open it up. Open up. See? Pick up your head. Okay? And try to fix it in, like from this part here. This is the bigger part of it. This is the back part, the front part. So you try to fix one side in first. Once the one side has gone in, try to now fix the second part in also. So once you think you've done that, hold it and then start pulling your zip. It's as easy as that. I fixed it, so my zip goes up. Okay? So I can now move this zip to the center. Normally when you're buying bags, you can take a measurement, place it from where to where. Am I stopping? It's somewhere here. So if it is, this is where my hole is. So where should my, so you can actually just leave it here. Because at the end of it, remember when you buy your bags, it's you that always ends up opening it, zipping it to this part and opening it to this part, whatever you want. So you can zip it to where that is going to stop and end it there. Okay? So I've been able to mark how long I want my zip to be, and I'll cut it off. Alright. So I've cut that off. Now that I have cut that off, I'm now going to put gum around it to be able to stick this down. Just a little, because you are still going to end up sewing it like I said. Okay? So for the parts I want to put, I'll just put a bit of gum. So when you put the gum, you keep it under, and then you bring this to the part you want to fix. Check it and make sure that you're placing it the way you want it. So you're going to place it. Try and place it how you want it to look. Okay? So you see what I'm doing? I'm placing it. I just hope that camera is not too far from me. Okay? So this side now, move your zip head to this part. Okay, I'm just trying to take the gum from it. And then place this part also close. Okay. So like I said, I did not put too much gum, just enough to help me hold it down so that I can stitch, because too much gum is going to affect you when you're sewing. Okay. So I'll just move it away from there a bit so I can stick that down also. So that's it. Have you seen? So that part is already ready. So we've done that. So now, first thing we are going to do is that we are going to stitch it down. So when you're we'll first stitch it down though, and then this is what. Okay guys, so there's another way, you know, I've done that in another video of how to do this, where we put the two, the under of the, as in the back pocket and the lining, we'll sew on it. We'll the same thing I'm teaching you how to do with gum. We'll sew on it and then cut out this part and then put our zip, you know. But this one is the gum method. Okay, I just thought I should, and then I had to change the style I was using. So just gum your back pocket to your main pocket. Okay, so like I had said earlier, the other method is really nice and quite easy as well. That one is totally sewing on the machine, so you can also use that particular method. Okay, I think it's on my, I've done it in another video, but I haven't uploaded that video yet. Okay, so I just want to re-put my gum so it will stick. Okay, so this is all the back. So I just want to try to place it. And flip it over anyway, and then arrange it properly. So I just want to try to fix it well. So I'm just trying to move that. Like I said, I didn't really put too much gum because I don't want my machine to have issues going over it. Okay, so when I get to the machine, I will get it done properly. All right, so that's it for that. So once you've been able to stick that down, just leave it there. When we get to the machine, we'll sort out every other thing for that. Okay, so that's number 2 for the machine. So the next thing now is our main. Okay, so we're going to be sewing. I have notched which part is the down part. You can use any for down or up. Okay, so I'm just going to be attaching. First of all, when we get to the machine, we're going to sew this to this. Okay, we're going to join this to this, so you can just use your clips. So you can use your clips to hold it down. You know, here now, because I've added leather to it, so you can't use your most times too, I just do a bit of gum on it to hold it down, so I do that also. But where you have your clips, just use your clips, hold it down, so when you're sewing on the machine, you can now keep taking it off. It just works like you'd have been using your pins if you were making clothing. So that is also going to the machine. So this as well. You also clip it. So okay, we have another thing to, but that I may explain your facing. We're meant to also join our facing. So maybe after sewing our pockets, then we are going to join our facing back to our lining. So all that we're going to take to the sewing machine and start up. So this is going to be, we still have this will come on later. And all these things too, anything that is, because this is going as lining, you don't need to iron on your interfacing to it. But for these ones that you're using to hold your zip, you can if you want to, but I'm not really bothered because I'll just use it as it is. So before we go joining this, let's go over to the machine and put all this together. So I'm going to be joining this piece. I'll just run it. I'm joining this to this. That's all I'm doing. So I'll do that and then show you. I'm also joining this to this. I'll do that and show you. And then the next thing I am doing is I am sewing round this part. Then I am also sewing here together. So I'll do that now and then I'll come back and show you. So as you can see, I have done this. Okay, so we have our pocket. Why I like it, why I say put something in, is that it gives you that room. Okay, so I have sewn it round. So here is a zip. I've also done it. Okay, so you can open that. We haven't yet closed it, so what we are now going to do is, see how I've kept it. I'm going to take it from this end and bring it up here. Okay, when I bring it up here, I'm going to hold this like this, and I'm going to stitch on it. So once I do that, right, you see the inside, you're going to be seeing the ankara on the inside. So I just wanted the ankara to be seen on the inside. Okay, so what we are going to do here now is take this back to the sewing table. See this, I'm bringing, see this is not on anything, so I'm bringing this towards this part. Okay, I'll align it together this way. Now, depending on how long you want this pocket, you can shorten it. So if I want to shorten it, I move it up and make it short. If you don't want the pocket too big, okay? But for me, if I don't want it big and I take it up, I will trim here off, because I really need to see what. So let's say I want that. I don't want to use more than that. I've trimmed it off. You see? Okay? So that means this is the amount of pocket I'm using, right? We're going to go back to that machine and we're going to stitch this part closed. Just this part I am holding. Okay? You're going to stitch it at a point like this, just next to that zip. Make sure it doesn't get to your seam. You have this here. Okay? So maybe half an inch above this. Just stitch it close. So when you do that, see how I'm folding the whole bag. After you've done that, you're now going to come as close as, see, there's this thing here that we had, the mouth of it that is showing here, that we had folded to this part. Use that line as a guide. Stitch all the way. Shape the pocket the way you want it. So if you want it like round, you're going to sew like this and shape it. Shape it however you want it, right? If you want it square, just do square and leave it there square. That's all. So you're sealing this. You're shaping, take it round, this, and then you're sealing the top. So that's what I'm going to do next, all right? Now, see this pattern. I've been able to join it together. So when you join it together like that, what I always do is that I open this part and gum it down. So I'm going to apply gum here, I apply gum here, I gum it. It's better it stays flat. You know, it's not that I can really iron leather. The only one I can iron here now is this fabric part. This part I don't iron it. So what I do is to apply my gum and I'll put it down. I'll do that and I'll show you. So once you apply the gum and put it down, it's going to give you a proper finishing at this point. So I've joined that part and I've also joined this part. So we have the two sides ready. Okay, so this is what our bag is going to look like. It's already taking shape. At this point too, we can actually start marking where our bag handle is going to be, and we can also start creating the design of the bag handle, because it's good to fix that particular one. So the one we're going to fix now is the one we want to fix on the bag. It's better to fix it now before you start sewing everything, because at times it's a bit difficult not to do that. So it's good to put your accessories together before you start putting every other thing. So I want to join this before we do that. So now, once I'm done with that, I'm going to now join this, because I want to join everything and then come back and show you. Remember, this is our facing. So to complete our lining, excuse me, you're supposed to join this. But before we do that, we're also supposed to put this together, because this is going to come in the middle before this. Okay, so I'm going to the machine to seal this, number one. Okay, so I've gone ahead to iron this. Now this is that piece that the zip is going to carry. So what I did was to fold it. So I just folded one edge. I didn't fold this edge. This is the edge that's going to go in between the facing and the lining, but the edge that the zip, excuse me, is going to stay on is what I folded. So I did same for the lining piece. Okay, so this part that the edge is raw, that I've not folded, is what is going in between the facing and the lining. Okay, so this is going to stay like this. So before I go through all that, before I go to do all this joining this to the, I'm going to sew this, the one I showed you, and then I'm going to fix the zip in between this. Now this zip, because the edge, because I'm using this, if I'm not using this and I'm using this anyway, either if I'm using this, then I still need to knit in one side of it. Okay, so if I want, I can choose to create it as a design, and I'll start here to fix it, right? See what I'm doing, and then bend it here to make it like a curve, and take it all the way till my ending also will come down here. So I can create it that way, so I don't need to start putting anything as the edge closure for the zip. But if I don't do that and I'm just putting the zip straight up like this, I need to, this I will tuck it in here to finish up, okay? But the edge here, I need to create something to give this edge that nice looking finish. So that's where you find things like this created. So I can use Ankara on the top side, lining on the underside, just exactly this. So you can make it a bit smaller if you want. Fold it, put it over this edge, and we're going to sew around it. So you just take a fabric, cut this side. See the way I'm doing it. I folded it, but if I'm doing this, I'm going to join lining to Ankara. So by the time I fold it, the underside will show lining, the upside will show Ankara. But if you don't want, you can just use your Ankara, it doesn't matter. Fold it this way. And then, but at this point too, please double it. This is the part I use taffeta to do it, to just give it weight. So I'll gum my taffeta just like I did for the pockets before I do this. So you do that, fold it over and stitch. That is it for this zip. So once you're done, we're going to fix our zip this way. Please just take your zip, place it in between this part that I have done all this. So place this side here, take your top, place on top of it. Okay, so once you do this, just stitch from here, here, and down. That's all. So this part, to end it, like I said, you can, turn it this way. Just make it like a turning, so you know that that's where your zip is ending. If you don't want to turn it, then you need to get something to turn this side. But for me, I'm turning it. So I'm going to just, when you get here, just turn this zip into this part. See, like a curve. Turn it and just stitch it down. So when you zip, it just ends at that point. Then when you're done, you're going to bring this side as well. Push this under. Okay. So the lining goes under, the fabric comes on top, and you're just going to stitch it also. Start from here, stitch, and the same thing. So I'm going to do that, and I'll show you now. I'll cut this also and attach.